Electric Jam Podcast.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to the Electric Jam Podcast. This is Season 2. I'm Christopher, and I'm here with Richard. If you don't know who we are, check out our website in the description of this podcast. Electric Jam has guitar reviews, gear testing, tons of info on recording, and music recommendations. Richard, how are you?
Fresh as a whistle.
That's a new one. I don't think I've ever heard you say that.
Well, I was actually referring to your intro. He did it like straight away without any. It's been a long time since he's done it. He did it perfectly. So
fresh. we to explain to the people that do listen to us. I know there's a good 50, 60 of you guys that are definitely listening all the time. We took the summer off. Richard has kids. Summer sucks in general. The studio's hot. It was super hot in Richard's studio. I mean, summer just sucks.
It's just hard as well.
And getting anything done.
Yeah, and I have my setup. I work from home exclusively, and I've got two little boys, and you can't do any live recording or anything like that with those guys around because they don't respect closed doors. They'll just come in. So yeah, and it's nice to have a break as well. Yeah, like cats. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is good to have a break. Today we will be talking about bands that lost an integral member, someone who was very important. And what really sparked this for me was the whole Linkin Park thing, which has kind of died down now. There was a big hubbub for like 2 weeks about it because she's a Scientologist, and the allegations of the other thing that we actually can't mention because
why not?
It flagged this video. We can't say the word that Danny Masterson was in trouble for, but if you look it up,
I was gonna say it rhymes with something.
Yeah, you can say it rhymes with something.
But that word might also get flagged as well, because the one I was thinking of is what I'm holding in my hand.
He was not a good man. He was a very, very bad man, and she kind of stuck up for him. So there was that, but then I said, okay, let's look at the video of her doing the songs live, and she's not bad. But the thing is she's not Chester Bennington either. And I think for some bands, some members are irreplaceable. And I think this might be one of them. And it sucks. There's no way around it. If they would have changed their name, and I was thinking about this, they could have changed their name to Hybrid Theory.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was their original band name. Yeah, that was the original band name, was Hybrid Theory.
Yeah, and because, I mean, I'm not going to say I was a fan of Linkin Park. I saw them when they came over with the Deftones in 2000. So it would be their first time over here. And I saw them at the Docklands in London. And, you know, it was like new metal, kind of like pop new metal. So it's quite popular. But the only reason they had any sort of success was because of Chester. Like, he was a very, 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 very good singer, a very good vocalist. He was like the USP. If he wasn't in the band, we never would have heard of him, basically.
That video of him doing the 16-second scream.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But he was the USP. That's it. He was the band. Without him, the band would have just been, weak beer, which I'd argue they are now anyway. So that was it. So when I heard they were reforming, because I mean, no one cares about Mike Shinoda and the guy that wears the Frank and Beans headphones. Like, it's kind of like they were like a middle of the road band with a very, very good singer who kind of elevated them beyond their kind of natural station, I would argue, in my opinion. So
that is when they were going
to reform, at first I was kind of like, oh, but then I remembered that Chester Bennington had passed away, and I was like, what? So then I looked into it, and then obviously get down into the Scientology nonsense and all that rubbish. But my immediate thing was, well, this is just a cash grab. Like, there's nothing. This is all it is. Because if they had any artistic integrity about what they were doing, they change the name, or they do it under a completely different brand, like Soundgarden did when Rage Against the Machine, Soundgarden kind of came together. They became a different entity. Although you could just argue it was Rage Against the Machine with Chris Cornell.
But they named it Audio Slave. It was Audio Slave.
They changed the name. Yeah.
It was a different band.
Yeah, so that's what they should have done, because the whole part of Linkin Park reforming as a new band, that's enough of a marketing hook anyway for the label PR people to kind of get stuck into the press with. I don't think it requires. I think if they should have done it in a classy way, it would be probably not to use her because of all the obvious stuff that came out and the behavior. But again, rock stars can be assholes, and they're not there to be good people, are they? They're there to kind of just make music. That's always been my kind of take on it anyway. Because you can't say like Phil Anselmo is his long history of being, a bit of an arse.
Questionably.
And but that still doesn't mean I don't not like Pantera because of that reason. I can separate the two, sort of thing. But again, it's like, I don't think, as a band, like listening to her singing their songs, as somebody who wasn't really that kind of like enamored by Linkin Park anyway, it's kind of like, it just sounds like some stupid Netflix cover band show where they get like the band back together with some new singer and some horrible, awful reality TV show on streaming that you somehow have someone in your house watches, so you have to sit through while you're eating your dinner. I just think I don't know. I don't think they have enough. Without him, I don't think they have enough like kind of raw talent to be anything interesting. And she just sounds weak in comparison to him when she does the songs. Because the thing that made them stand out was his raspy voice. It was kind of like Chris Cornell level of ability with what he could do with it.
Yeah,
without any effect. Without any effects. So, and then she comes along. She's kind of just and she sings well, but I don't know. It just seems like it's much ado about nothing.
The new songs they're okay, but it sounds like a different band now.
Yeah, which is why they should have been called something else. Like, it's just it seems odd because when I think of Linkin Park, or somebody who's into music but isn't particularly into Linkin Park, which I'm sure
Chester Bennington immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, because his talent, his voice was that good that it kind of transcended the band he was in anyway. Because you could be like, well, you put him in, anything. I mean, he was in Stone Temple Pilots for a bit, wasn't he? So
he was in another band called
Scott Weiland's replacement.
God, it was Dead by Sunlight or something like that. And it was like Scumbag Dirty Rock. And his voice did that too. So the fact that
it's perfect for that kind of thing. So
he could do the screamy Scumbag Rock. He could do Stone Temple Pilots, and then he could do the more clean Linkin Park. Although he did scream a lot in Linkin Park, but
he did. It was more clean on the first album. It was, but that was
later albums.
Yeah, but that was when the dynamic back then was the new metal formula, wasn't it? Which was like, start softly, heavy bit, heavy bit, soft bit, heavy bit, middle eight, chorus, finish. So, I mean, I saw them like 24 years ago now, so that's a while ago. And but they're like one band that I didn't think, when I'm 40, these are still going to be around. People are going to be talking about them. Because there's like, while he was good. He was very good. I could see him being around for a long time. I was like, he's, that kind of voice, that kind of talent, it doesn't come around very often. And when it does, it finds a way to sort of, once it's kind of outgrown its place with its current station, which would be with Linkin Park, it goes off into something else. Obviously, that didn't happen tragically. But yeah, I just don't. I think if I was a fan of the band, I'd find it pretty offensive. Because he kind of is the band and the sound of the band, and you can't really replace the beating heart of a band and expect people to just swallow it and also go out and buy tickets. And the new music, I'd describe it as pretty vanilla, to be honest.
It's very
just it's like music by the numbers. It's a cash grab. That's why I think they need some money, or the label needs some money, or I don't know, maybe it needs a new yacht or something. But
so what about some bands?
If it was the music, if it was the music, this is what my main point. If it was just about the creative act, the music, like we need to get back together and make some more music, they could have done it in a number of different ways that would have been way more tasteful. They could have done an album with a load of different singers. That would have been cool.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that.
Like get Chino in, a lot of just get loads of people in. Yeah. Exactly. Or just reform. Or if you're going to pick one person, you do it under a different name. That's it. You can't. It doesn't work. It does work, but not in that context. There's too much nuance in that situation, and it's weighted towards it in Chester's favor than it is to the bands. So then it doesn't work. But you take something like.
Oh, I was going to say like what a perfect. No, you go ahead. Sorry. And
I was just going to say, but it's the opposite of that would be, someone like Faith No More, who had Chuck Mosley, and then they replaced him with Mike Patton, and that was then they became successful. So that's kind of like the other way around. But
well, what about? I mean, because this is a good example to me. What about Joy Division, who became New Order?
I don't like New Order.
No.
Nah. No, I was never, to be honest, controversial. I used to argue this about with my friend a lot. I was never a massive Joy Division fan either. It just never really gave me the fizz. I don't know why, because it is my kind of music. I just wasn't into it. And they're from, my neck of the woods as well.
Down the road, yeah.
Literally down the road. Like I do like their music, parts of it, but I've never got it. I guess that's, to me, it's never just kind of. I've been like, yeah, I get it now. But maybe there's time. I don't know. I never liked Bob Dylan that much really, and then I've kind of got into him quite heavily in the last couple of years. So maybe there's time.
But they handled it in a really good way, and it was the exact same situation. So, Singer, who was the charismatic front man, the brains of the operation, the guy that everyone came to see, Ian Curtis. Ian Curtis passes away, and now you have these three guys who have a record contract to fulfill, and they're like, well, we've got all this material. What are we going to do? And they can't go on as Joy Division. Don't go on as Joy Division. That would have been a really bad idea because they're not anymore. So they changed the name. They got a couple new members, and they continued in the same path that Joy Division was going down, which was more new wave, more electronic. And it worked. Bernard Summer ended up being the singer, and he didn't want to be, which is funny, but I think he's great. But there's other bands that have done it really gracefully also. Alice in Chains, I think, did it really well. And not just because they took a long time to do it either, but they kind of picked a guy that was good for it. And Alice in Chains is
that's some pretty big shoes to fill. That guy's hitting notes that people can't really naturally do usually. So I've never listened to without him. So because I quite used to love Alice in Chains, and I don't know, it was just a part of me that just when I saw that they have a new singer and stuff, I was like, nah, no.
I was too at the same time. I was too when it happened, which I think was around 2008, 2009. But then when I listened to the album, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is properly evil. And then I kind of realized that the whole time behind Alice in Chains, it was Jerry Cantrell. And Jerry Cantrell was the sound,
Yeah,
those
totally.
riffs, those melodies, those harmonies. I mean, and I love his solo stuff too. Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big talent, and he is. But that's the difference between a band like Alice in Chains and Linkin Park. I mean, that's such a loaded statement anyway. But you can take elements that, like Jerry Cantrell by himself is, a fantastic musician, and he is 50% about the Alice in Chains sound, and even fans would admit that. Like, Lynn was the vocals and stuff were unlike anything else, and he had a beautiful voice, and he could do things that most people, it seems unnatural. And there's YouTube videos about some of the notes he hits, and people are like, how is he even doing that? But they would still admit that, you take out Jerry Cantrell out of that equation, it wouldn't be the same as if you remove him. So in that it kind of works, I guess. But for me personally, I'm gonna have to have a listen now, because I just assumed it was some kind of, because 2008, that was kind of when the whole sort of like nostalgia porn started kicking in, wasn't it? And everyone started reforming, and
Smashing Pumpkins get back.
Yeah, started going on tours, and then remaking everything. Started remaking films that came out like 10 years ago and stuff. It was just went a bit crazy for the nostalgia. So no, I'll have a listen. But I think in that context, it kind of works. But
AC/DC.
Well, yeah, obviously. But then Bon Scott died in long time ago, didn't he? So
yeah,
in 1980. So
yeah,
before. Was that before you were born?
No, that was. I was alive.
No, I wasn't. I'm alive for another 5 years. Spring chicken over here.
I think it was born the same month that Ian Curtis died, like almost to the day, actually. So that's 1980. Yeah. I mean, everybody said that they couldn't go on without him, and then they come out with Back in Black, and it's arguably. I mean, I like the Bon Scott stuff a lot. I like it a lot.
Yeah, but I think now more people know them for the post Bon Scott stuff, though. That's the thing. But
exactly,
they've had like nearly 50 years of recording to do that. We'll do that to a man. So,
what's another good one? What's
there's Blink-182 is like a really recent one. Like Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio, he took over when Tom DeLonge left. But Matt Skiba's great. I used to love the Alkaline Trio. Didn't you?
I didn't know that.
I knew that because I used to love the Alkaline Trio when I was about 17.
Oh, I love them too.
They're dead good. Like really, really, really good. Their first 3 albums were like fantastic. And I'm not really into punk music. I don't really like it. I don't like Blink-182. Like I don't mind them, but I would never just sit down and listen to it or put it on in the car. Like never.
No, but I'd listen to Private Eye over and over and
exactly.
over.
But Alkaline Trio were great because they had that kind of like, he was such a good guitarist. He had a really good voice, and it was witty. And that kind of works with Blink-182, I guess. But then he got kicked out, didn't he? Once Tom DeLonge had finished revealing secrets about the aliens.
Yeah, I guess that's a good example. I mean, Fleetwood Mac is another one. Fleetwood Mac, they lost. The one of the best guitarists in the world, and they fumble upon Lindsey Buckingham, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to be in our band?" And Lindsey's like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll play guitar for you, but my girlfriend has to come too." And they absolutely did not want to do it, and it turned out to be the best move they've ever made.
Musically.
Well, musically, yes.
Musically, it was.
Socially. Their social lives were not so good. But you know what? Would Rumors be such a perfect
Well, that kind
album?
of added to the mix, didn't it? So
yeah.
At the end of the day.
But I mean, go ahead.
I would say the takeaway here is that it's all contingent on how good you are in the first place, and how much your sound is dependent on the singer, which in Linkin Park's case, it was basically everything. Because you can come back like AC/DC, it's guitars, it's the rhythm section. It's more to it than the vocals. It's not just, when you think of AC/DC, I don't think of the vocalist. I think of the guitars, for instance.
You know what?
Right?
You make a really good point. Yeah, I think about the riffs.
Yeah, exactly. Blink-182. I don't really think about them very often at all. But,
no.
Matt Skiba's got some chops, and I'd argue he's a better guitarist and a better singer than Tom DeLonge anyway. So that's kind of a good switch anyway. Faith No More, they weren't really, they were big, but they were like a sort of poor man's Chili Peppers, weren't they? And then when Patton came in, they just completely decimated them because he's a ridiculously good singer and he's got an amazing ear, not just for music, but for melody and for pop and also for rock sensibility too. But the whole point was is that with this is that, and I think what there's so much funk about Linkin Park is because Linkin Park is Chester Bennington. So without him, there is no Linkin Park because he is the sound of Linkin Park. That's kind of my sort of 2 cents on it when compared to these other bands that have switched singers. You know, it's like Maiden. They switched like Paul Di'Anno, then they went to Bruce Dickinson, then they're Blaze Bayley. But, you know, Maiden is Bruce Dickinson. And he's not the original singer, but they are.
Although I like some of Paul Dano's songs.
Yeah, totally. I do. But I'd say I would definitely. But again, Maiden's more than just a singer, isn't it? Maiden's like the guitars. It's got more going on. Like some of their songs, true. You know, the vocals in it aren't even. You know, they're always there and they're always great. Sorry, my dog's going berserk. But there's more to it. And I think that's why. With the Blink-182 thing, there's not Blink-182, Linkin Park, why there's so much, and all the other stuff, the other loaded stuff on top of it. But is because without Chester Bennington, they wouldn't really been anything anyway. So trying to do something without him just doesn't sit well with people.
I agree. Well, let's look at some of the failures too. I think Sublime should have stopped in 1994. Yeah. Sublime of Rome was okay, but again, Bradley Noel was one of those once in a lifetime type of talents, and it just feels like a glorified cover band. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, because Queen has done the same thing, and while I like seeing Queen perform live, they had what's his face, Adam. He was on America's Got Talent or one of those TV shows.
Yeah.
In one.
You're asking the wrong person, mate. Oh,
yeah,
the Maroon 5 guy.
No.
Was it the Maroon? Oh,
no.
Okay.
He was a contestant. He was a contestant.
Oh, right. Okay.
And he ended up singing for Queen for a little while. Journey.
But that's just kind of cabaret, isn't it? At that stage, it's not really.
That's what I'm saying. These are more the failures. They're just playing the big numbers.
They're not like we're going to go to the studio and write the best music we've ever written. You know, it's just we're going out doing some tours because people like hearing the music live, and you know, it's not Freddie, but you know, this guy's all right. Give us £200 a ticket, please. You know, it's kind of like it. I get it because people like to see things because it's not Queen, but Queen like Brian May. You know, see him play live would be cool anyway. So they're kind of going along that line. But at that point, it's just like cabaret. It's just a show. It's not about the music at that point. It's about almost like posterity. Like, you know, you can see Queen. Well, you know, 3/4 of them.
Right.
That's sure I'd go for it. It's like fancy karaoke, isn't it? Like that because it
really is
like premium karaoke with famous
premium people. $500 a ticket. Karaoke. I mean, it's.
I'll tell you one band who I really wish wouldn't. I don't. The fact that they can still continue because it interrupts my Spotify streams a lot when I'm driving, and every time it does, it makes me incredibly angry. Is Leonard Skinner because they're like one of my favorite bands like of all time, and
they were going to be the next band that I brought up, Ronnie Van Zant.
Yeah, and then they just kept. I don't know if they still go. I mean, they are still going now, but I don't know who their new singer is. But every now and then I'll be listening to something and he'll just throw in like a live version of like Freebird, which I've heard nearly every possible live version of that from them.
And it's not his voice. And
it's just like, oh God, what is this? And it every time it gets me. And it's just, they've gone from being this sort of, I can't really begin to explain how much I love that band. Like, they're one of the main reasons why I picked up a guitar in the first place, because I was like, I love that, because I quite like metal, but that's kind of like my, you know, go-to sort of stuff, really.
I mean, I grew up with it. I mean, I grew up in Georgia, so you get a Leonard Skinner tattoo when you come out of the womb here.
Yeah, so I'm from, you know, Stoke-on-Trent, so you know, we don't get much country around here. But it just has that, like, I remember the first time I heard it, it was actually It was in an Adam Sandler film when I was still in secondary school, so something like 12, 13 or something. And it was Happy Gilmore. And I was like, I heard the music and I was like, wow, I like this. And then I saw the band was Leonard Skinner. And then after that, I was that was it. I always loved them. And then Freebird is it's like my favorite, even though everyone hates it. I love it.
I like
Simple Man.
that song still. Simple Man, Give Me Back My Bullet.
Well, I just love learning to play their tunes on guitar because they have such a expressive style of playing that it's not particularly hard or technical, but they do loads of like cool stuff with like slides and like two string, like kind of like the A shape, but like way up and down the neck, just all over the place, like ripping in between pentatonic shapes and stuff. And
yeah, like That Smell, the song That Smell. They're jumping all over the place, but not really. It's actually a pretty simple song, but it's so much fun to play and it's so much fun to listen to. And you got to remember in the 70s, that was pretty hard back then. Like a song like Give Me Back My Bullet, that's like proto metal, you know? That riff is pretty heavy. The end of Freebird is pretty heavy when you have the guitars like trading off on the solos and everything, and it speeds up, and man, it's just so cool. But yeah, after half the band died, I'm just not interested anymore.
No, it's kind of
some bands handle it really well, though. I mean, like think about the bands that handled it really gracefully, like Led Zeppelin, who's another one of our favorites. I think quitting when John Bonham died, when Bonzo was gone, that was it.
Yeah.
And I think that they all realized it.
And a drummer is arguably the most replaceable component of a band. There's no disrespect to John Bonham because he's one of the greats. But a drummer is someone you can switch out. Not a good drummer.
Not a good drummer.
Yeah, he's an exceptional drummer.
It's almost impossible to find a good drummer because he could play super technical. But then
if you're Zeppelin, you could find a Ringo. I'm pretty sure he could play all their tunes beat for beat. That's what I'm saying.
His son is pretty good. He nails it. But it's just not the same. And I think that they knew that chemistry just wouldn't be the same if they brought in somebody else, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I think he'd give him an opportunity to go out on top as well. Like they kind of like, it's not going to get any better than this. So, and it won't be the same. So it's a classy thing to do. Have you noticed the trend here? All these bands are British. Classy British gentlemen.
You know what? You're absolutely right. They are, aren't they?
No, we couldn't possibly go on without Bono. No. We're going to leave. We're going to knock it on the head. Go out on the top. What?
I mean, yeah, it was a Linkin Park thing that really got me thinking about this, though, and going back and, like I said, I listened to that Alice in Chains album, Black Gives Way to Blue, and it's just so good, man. It's just so good. And there's some bands that pulled it off, and then there's some bands that just failed miserably at it. And then there's some bands that just shouldn't even be doing it. Like, I don't know what Blink-182 has to bring to the musical table anymore.
What? Well, no. I mean, no. They were kind of like, it was that weird time, wasn't it, where in the early 2000s where if you were a band, you could get very popular very quickly with a good video, like a good music video on MTV2, like a funny one, and that was kind of their shtick, wasn't it? Yeah, like a funny video, and that was kind of a lot of bands at Foo Fighters did this. This is I have a theory about this. The music videos were like a huge launching platform for bands. Now they're not a big thing anymore at all, realistically speaking, when you think about it, because nobody watches like MTV2 because everyone's got the internet.
Oh.
So the music videos kind of once was, the flavor of the month. It was the new big thing, and now it's not really a big deal anymore. I mean, I can't remember the last time I watched a music video. Really, if I'm honest with myself, I can't.
I watched.
There was that period. No, I don't. Well, I'm just imagining the world's exactly like inside my head. But during that period, there was like. Because it was that like these just weird bands that you would nowadays would never even get a sniff at anything like Alien Ant Farm, with these silly videos and covers that kind of just gave them this like instant huge following of people because they had this because it's a stupid, funny video basically, and people like funny stuff.
And Foo Fighters really kicked that off.
Yeah, with like Everlong and stuff. A good video will do. Aphex Twin. That's part of the reason he's so successful, is because his videos were so impressive, so memorable.
So
like
weird.
Window Licker and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Chris Cunningham that did those videos. Yeah. Foo Fighters, they did the first single with the Mentos thing, but it was the Futos.
Yeah.
It was like the Mentos commercials. And that was the first like really funny video I'd ever seen. And then they did Everlong. And for such a serious song to do such a silly video, and like Taylor Hawkins is wearing a wig and a dress. And
it's a really good video. Like, it's a great video. That's silly. That's what put them on my radar when I was about 12 or something. Just watching MTV2 because there's nothing else when you first got Sky TV in the UK. So it went from having 5 channels to having Sky. So when they had music MTV, it was called MTV2 then. I think it was called M2, but it was really good for like alternative music. There's loads of good stuff on there. Like loads of bands that I came across that I wouldn't have known about.
That's where I found the Distillers for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brody Dolly. That's when I fell in love with her. Unfortunately, Josh Homme got her.
I think he sounds like he took a bullet for you, mate, to be honest, but given all the fallout from that. But yeah. No, I've never really never listened to them. I heard their music, but on MTV2, but no, I'm not a big punk guy, really, to be honest.
Yeah,
But I get it though. She's a nice looking girl.
There's I guess good ways to handle this and bad ways to handle this, and the landscape has definitely changed from back in the day. I mean, like Nirvana couldn't have went on.
Well, you say that, but they could. I think nowadays, if you move that forward, this would be a similar kind of situation you'd have with Linkin Park. Not saying that Linkin Park are anywhere near as good or influential as Nirvana, but it's the same deal. It's the whole thing with Nirvana hangs on Kurt Cobain. He is Nirvana. Dave Grohl and Christ
exactly
are there, but it's him. Without him, it's not Nirvana. It's the same with Linkin Park, and I know I've made this point like about 5 times now, but I think that's when it's most important. And it's the same with Leonard Skinner for me. It's like it's not the same. It's not the same kind of laid back, easygoing kind of, almost like, I don't know, I can't really describe it, but they never came across to me as like sort of, it just seems like really stereotypical sort of like, yeah, guns and rednecks and hunting and all that kind of stuff now. Whereas before I knew they were very proud of where they came from and the South and all that kind of stuff. And I like, the South culture from America House, so I like blues and bluegrass and all that kind of stuff. But it just, I don't know, it seemed really cheesy when I heard some of their new stuff slip into my Spotify listening session.
Oh yeah.
Like super cheesy, like line dancing cheesy. And I was like,
that's because the original Leonard Skinner were a bunch of poor boys from Florida who in the documentary that I watched about them, they talk about going to McDonald's and getting a meal and splitting it between like all 6 of them. Yeah. That's how poor they were. And then they would just jam out in this 100-degree shed.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. I've seen that though. Yeah.
No,
it's really sad. Aerosmith were meant to be on that plane as well, weren't they?
They were, yeah. And it didn't happen. So here's a highly controversial one for you.
Okay.
Black Sabbath.
Yeah, with what's his name? Dios.
Ronnie Dios.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a good singer as well. He's great. Like Holy Dive is a great tune, but it's not Black Sabbath.
I think they turned into a different band.
Yeah, it's like the cock rock phase.
Well, I mean, like, not really. I don't know.
It's
Dehumanizer kind of is. But I still love the song Time Machine off of that album. I love Mob
Holy Dive is pretty glam. Like it's got It's like jaunty.
Well,
it's not.
well, yeah,
it's not
it
Sabbath.
was. No, that wasn't Sabbath though. That was
Oh, it wasn't, was it? That was him.
Rainbow.
That was his band.
Yeah, that was
sorry.
Rainbow.
Me sounding like a dickhead on a podcast about music.
But I do like some of the Dio Sabbath stuff. Still better with Ozzy. Well, yeah, because it continued on after Jim Morrison. They had 2 more albums.
Yeah, one of them was a spoken word though, recordings, wasn't it, of Jim Morrison? And it wasn't. They didn't have a singer on it, did they? I'm sure they used his recordings that they did because he did that spoken word stuff, didn't he? And they used that and put music over the top of it. I didn't think they released an album with another singer though, doing the vocals. Did they? I mean, if they did, I haven't heard it. So, and I'm a big Doors fan. I have to go back and
listen now. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm sure it's they did. It was the recordings because he sat down, didn't he, and did all the spoken word stuff. It was at the end of the film, the Oliver Stone film. Like you see him sat there with his whiskey bottle, just talking into a microphone. And I'm sure the album they did, the last one, after he died anyway, was because he finished LA Woman, and then he died, and then they released the other one, which was with his spoken word stuff over the top.
Genesis.
I remember listening.
Genesis is another one. Peter Gabriel didn't die, but he left. And I would say
Phil Collins was, he's got some chops, hasn't he? So he did that.
Well, this is kind of one of those things where everybody in that band could have been the leader of the band anyway.
Yeah, and they completely changed though. They weren't the same. They were a prog band, and then they became the Genesis that everybody knows.
Yeah, which was more.
Like their early stuff was like insane. It was like not King Crimson levels of insane, but it was pretty weird.
Oh yeah, definitely. Peter Gabriel kind of took that with him.
Yeah, I mean it's much stranger than like Rush. It was way more proggy than that, and it was. Yeah, and then they just became a pop band after that, didn't they? So.
Thin Lizzy. Thin Lizzy's another one. After Phil Lynott died, they continued on. Not for a long time though.
No. But they were never. I mean, they are. Oh, I love Thin Lizzy, but they were never like. They're a bit like Motorhead, like one of those legacy bands that everyone knows, but they've kind of been forgotten about a little bit. If you know what I mean. Like they're never really in the. They're never really in the conversation when you're having like big, swinging conversations about the greats and the big bands and the influential ones. Thin Lizzy.
They should be though, because they like influenced like Metallica to Slayer to all these other bands that ended up being very metal. And Thin Lizzy was kind of on the top of that. And everybody remembers like The Boys Are Back in Town, but like they had such better songs than that,
Yeah, that's the thing with them. They're like that. Everyone's like knows the song. Oh, that one. Yeah, I know them. It's like, no, you don't. If that's the only one you know, you don't. You don't know them at all.
Whiskey in the Jar. That's a great song.
Yeah, Metallica covers. I like the Metallica cover as well.
Oh yeah, I love the Metallica cover. I think they did it really, really, really well. They did justice to that song. Avenged Sevenfold is one. The Rev, who was their drummer, and I won't say primary songwriter, but he was the guy who put all the interesting stuff into their songs. And I think that's why they kind of dropped off after that. Like, I didn't think that any of their albums after that were, I don't know, like sonically interesting.
I thought you quite liked the new one, the DMT one.
I thought that was neat because it made all of their fans mad. I like it because it's not Avenged Sevenfold. It's something completely different. And to take that kind of risk, when you're known as kind of like this radio rock band, Yeah,
it's ballsy. It's a ballsy move.
It was a super ballsy move, and they're still touring off of it, so it must have been pretty good. Van Halen's another one. They switched singers in the middle of their career and continued on. I mean, once again, David Lee Roth didn't die, but I don't know. They had better album sales.
I've got one. I mean,
Okay.
it's Static X.
Oh, good point.
But
now the guy from Dope is filling in. I don't know if you've seen him with them.
No,
but he does a really good job.
Yeah, it just popped in to my head. I was like, oh yeah. And then the Grateful Dead's obviously made loads of people in that. And they still played after Jerry Garcia, didn't they, when he died?
Well,
I think the overarching theme is you can do it, but you have to do it in the right way. And some bands definitely have an easier time doing it. And the bands that do have an easier time doing it are the ones where the singer isn't necessarily the most important part. Or not right. He's not the whole band. He's not the whole band. He's not the whole thing. Like there's more.
Well, like with Van Halen, if Eddie Van Halen died or left the band, then that would have been the end of that band. With David Lee Roth.
Yeah, or if Bruce Springsteen died, you're not going to go and see the E Street Band, are you?
No, no, not at all.
You know what I mean? So it's one of.
I guess what it comes down to is I don't think that this was handled very well. And even I was looking at the Linkin Park forum before I came on here, and people are still talking about it. And the consensus seems to be with Linkin Park fans that they just wanted a name change. And most people said they should have went back to Hybrid Theory, which was the name of the band before they became Linkin Park.
You know what? It didn't.
Money. Yeah,
money, pressure from the record label. Then it'd be like some guy in a suit go, no, we can't do that because Linkin Park's a brand, it's bankable, we'll sell, we've done the numbers, the algorithm says if we change the name, we're going to look at 20% less sales. We're missing all these people.
If I'm Mike Shinoda, I would have been like, I don't care. I'm worth $20 million.
Well, he probably wanted 20 more, or 5 more. Or whatever happened, he's been talked around. So, I mean, this is just, to me, it's just common sense. That would just be common sense. It's just something you do out of common decency to respect the fact that A, Chester Bennington was the main focal point and USP of the original band. And B, it's just a respectful thing to do because it's not going to be the same. It's not Linkin Park without him. He is Linkin Park. So change the name. Just change the name. Like, it's not a big deal. Everyone knows you were Linkin Park. All the press releases will be Linkin Park reforms as, the new Linkin Park tour. It'd be with, do you know what I mean? It wouldn't really affect anything either way, but some doink in a suit has gone, now we've done the numbers and we're looking at, people who would normally just buy a ticket because they'd see Linkin Park and buy it instantly will see that name and they'll go, I don't know who that is, and they'll keep scrolling. So we need to make sure we stop that scrolling, get them to buy right away. And that's it.
You're right.
It's just money. It's just money and greed. And because if the consensus is that, and my initial gut reaction was when this changed the name, and single person I've spoken to, which granted is not that many people, it's like basically you and one of my mates who we went to see him, and we're at the same gig. Well, we went to see the Deftones. I didn't go to see Linkin Park or Taproot, who was also supporting. And I was like, what do you think? And he was like, yeah, just change the name. Because Chester is Linkin Park. Without him, it's not. So change the name. But it's crazy they didn't. And the only logical explanation for why is pressure from the record label, because it's a branding issue.
Yep. I think you're right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up today. Any website news?
There is something coming that we're going to be doing shortly. I'm going to try and do it next week, where it will effectively be like a sort of a social community kind of thing within the site. So if you log in, and I think there's a way to do it where if you remember, there's no adverts on the site, because I mean we hate the ads on the site as well, but unfortunately they kind of pay the bills. But if you're signed in as a member, you'll have like your own little page, so you can have a picture and you can have a little about yourself section, and then you can comment on posts and you can share stuff with other people who are members too. So the goal is to kind of just sort of make like a bit of a kind of like a community around the site where, you know, we can share news with you, you can discuss it, and gradually sort of grow it out into something that's a bit like Reddit, but less horrible.
I was about to say, because we've tried the Reddit thing, and the Reddit thing is not where I want to be, because there's too many people that come in there just to troll me. And I just answered a message earlier that was an obvious troll. And I don't want that kind of community. And it's happened on every single thing that I've ever put on Reddit, whether it's a video or whether it's a link to a review. You know, like 90% of the comments are respectful, or they have a question and it's legitimate. And then there's always those one or two people in there. We want to get rid of those people.
Yeah, and it's also just it, and not keep, and it be our platform as well. Because if you're on somebody else's platform, you have to kind of do things by their rules, and you have to work within the constraints of their system. So, and it'd also be a really good way. So, yeah, so if you have like a question about, you know, guitar or something you want to learn or something you're struggling with, you'd be able to just message Chris and he could literally just go, yeah, do this, try this out. And if you're really struggling, you can book a little call with him and he can take you through it and show you stuff. So yeah, so it should be quite cool. And it might take me longer than a week to build. I don't know, but that's kind of like the next sort of phase of it, because Google, I don't know if you're aware, but Google has basically just burned the internet in the last sort of 12 months. So for sites like us, which is an independent site, you know, small publisher, it's basically eradicated us from the search engine after crawling all of our content for, you know, years and sending us lots of traffic in the search engine. It's now mined all that content, taken it all, stolen is the word I like to use, and then it now uses that to give you the AI overviews that you get at the top of your page. So the next time
some of it is word for word things that I wrote.
Yeah, so next time you Google something and the AI overview things pop up, just scroll past it, because that thing is built on like the blood of hundreds of thousands of people's jobs that are now gone because of what Google's done to kind of publishers like us and everybody else. I mean, we're kind of like just struggling on because, I mean, we do other things as well, so it's okay. But there's a lot of people I know personally and professionally that have, you know, had to fire their entire staff. You know,
and that was their only job.
Yeah, with people with families and kids. Well, it is. I mean, this is kind of what I do for a living, and it's been really bad. I've had to let people go on my other sites with the cut costs, and it's all because of this AI overviews thing. And the really insidious thing about it is that they effectively took everyone's content, because Google reads the internet, it crawls every single site on the internet. So it's taken all these like independent sites that lovingly take the time to sort of go into a subject in a really deep and meaningful manner. It's just mined all that, put it into its database, and now it just serves up the answers kind of when everybody answers a question, rather than sending you to the source, which would be in this context us for something. So, you know, it's taking stuff that Chris has done, which is our IP, it's his IP, his original work, and is passing it off as its own. So we don't get the visit to our website, we don't get any ad traffic, we don't make any money, you can't do it anymore. And the end result of this is there's no more open web, it's just Reddit and TikTok and all that nonsense. So yeah, that's a big thing. So scroll past AIO, or if you really want to make a difference, is start using Bing. It's a far better search engine than Google is now. For news,
it's
for
just as good.
Surfacing news site, it's better. It's way better. I'm not joking. I've been using it side by side for 12 months now, and for news, it's much better. It's much more diverse, much more sources, different kind of takes, and just for kind of general stuff. Like if I'm interested in something, I'll type it in, like something, you know, kind of like not kind of like trending or anything, just something that I go, oh, what's that? And I'll find a blog or a website that I'm like, okay, yeah, and then I'll remember that site. And it's much more kind of like how the web used to be. Whereas now, if I go to Google and do the same thing, I have to read some guy's opinion on Reddit about it while I have the Reddit phone on my app. The Reddit app on my phone,
right.
Sorry. Which is, if I want to go to Reddit, I'll go to Reddit. It's like if I want to watch a YouTube video, I'll go to YouTube. If I go into a search engine like Google or Bing, it's because I want to read something. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at now with stuff like that. And it's not going to go away and it's not going to change. So it's kind of contingent on people kind of voting with their attention and where they give it. Because once these sites start going and independent publishers disappear, that's the open web gone. Because the sites who produce content have to make money. Otherwise, you can't do it because you have to pay writers, you have to pay hosting, you have to pay developers. You can't do it for free. And once that's gone, then it'll be the medium-sized publishers, then it'll be the big publishers, and then it's just social media. That's it. That's all you want.
And it's all
no journalism,
homogenized.
Yeah.
And it's
that's it. That's the TikTok, and I'm not saying social media doesn't have a place. It doesn't. It's been around, coexisted for a long time, but it's like the separation of church and state. There needs to be a demarcation between the two. And Google wants you to just stay on Google because it can serve you more ads and it makes more money, and that's it. And it's a greedy, evil, disgusting corporation. I've lost a lot of respect for them in the last 12 months. So, yeah. Boycott Google. So, use Bing, use DuckDuckGo, and also they steal all your personal data as well and sell it to advertisers, so which isn't cool either. So more people just use DuckDuckGo or use Bing or use ChatGPT search. Anything. Just stop using Google because they basically screwed over tens of millions of people, millions of publishers, writers, editors, journalists. It's horrific, and the extent of it is massive, and you won't hear about it because most people use Google, and Google controls Google. So that's it. Yeah, rant over.
So season 2, we have some really fun topics that we're going to be going over. The next 2 episodes are going to be a whole lot of fun. I don't know which one we're going to do first, but let me describe them, and maybe you guys can vote in the comments if you're on YouTube. But the next couple ideas that I had was what defines a professional guitarist. There are choices to be made if you want to go pro. Most of it is not about gear. We can talk about how to get endorsements, how to get gigs, how to start working for a studio, stuff like that. And then my other topic that I'd like to discuss is, does politics belong in music? Because we've always had bands like The Clash, Rage Against the Machine, Chumbawamba, and so many more that had different things to say, which brings us to other bands criticizing their own scene as well. Kind of like 311 when they did Come Original, and Deftones when they did Back to School. So does criticism of the world and the music scene come off as a novelty, or does it come off as like a sincere thing? And we'll be looking at that too. So those are my 2 ideas. Do politics belong in music, and what defines a professional guitarist? Do you guys tell us which one you want to see first? But I think they're both pretty good.
Pretty juicy.
Pretty juicy. I think most guitarists are gonna definitely vote for the professional guitarist thing because, I've done it. I've walked the walk, and as far as getting endorsements and stuff like that, it's a lot easier and a lot harder than you would think. But yeah, we can go over all of that.
Sounds
and
good.
Then politics and music, it's always been a thing, but there's been some very influential bands, like I said, like, The Clash and Rage Against the Machine. Big players made a big mark in the world. So, but yeah, you guys comment below. No matter what app you're on, send us a comment and let us know what you want. And that's what we'll cover next week. But otherwise, we'll talk to you later. You're supposed to say goodbye, Richard.
Goodbye.
Thanks. That wasn't bad for being rusty.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's not too bad at all. Just a more berating Google. I'm going to make that a thing now because I fucking hate them.